Hello and welcome to the Infinite Love Podcast, a place where we share stories on how love can transform negative emotions and pain into strength. We talk about all things related to love, positivity, and kindness. And I am your host, Carine Camara. Hello and welcome to episode 39, From Settling to a Passionate Life. Helen Helix is an intuitive counselor and licensed therapist with 35 years of experience supporting her clients to help heal traumas and limiting beliefs and supporting them to catapult forward to lives of joy, connection, and adventure. Helen uses her powerful intuitive gifts and processes to dive deep and move quickly. She works with clients all over the world via video conference. In today's episode, Helen and I talk about life, and she shares her story of falling in love later in life. And she even gives me some sound dating advice. It's a really fun and great conversation. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, welcome to the Infinite Love Podcast. Today, we have the honor to speak with Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Carine.
How are you?
I'm awesome. And I'm so excited to be here because I love you and I love what you have to say. And I can't wait to get into a juicy conversation with you.
Thank you. I love you too. Okay, so I always start out the podcast talking about what your love lesson is. And your love lesson is essentially something in your life that brought you to a standstill and made you regroup and change and transform to become the woman you are today, and also take what you learned to help be of service to others.
And you want me to address that?
Well, yeah, just tell us a little bit. I mean, you don't have to say everything because, the love lesson could be a big moment in your life, or it could
Well,
be
okay. I'll just tell you my most recent one. I'm almost 72 years old. And the reason I said that you want me to talk about that is because I'm almost 72 years old. I could pick about 1,000 turning points in my life,
right.
My love lessons. But my most recent one was that I kind of had a radical transformation of what I do like 3 years ago. And it took me on a journey down a different path of much more self-love and self-confidence, which just sent me and my husband on completely opposite paths. He was kind of cruising into old age, doing nothing, and I was like reborn into a youthful vitality. And so I left him at 71 without the financial security of his pension and so forth. But the love lesson to me is I don't give a, can I cuss on this podcast? I don't care how old I am. I'm going for the juice and passion of life. And that to me is my current love lesson is I don't care how old you are. Don't settle for something that doesn't satisfy you. You've got to risk. It's a big risk. It takes a lot of courage, but man, you feel so alive when you're doing it. And, I don't care how old you are and I don't care how young you are. Don't settle. You deserve the whole package and fight for it.
That is so beautiful and so important to say, because I feel like as we get older, we start to give up on the dream, especially when we pass the reproductive years. We're kind of like, it's done.
And sex. So many, especially women, in menopause. And again, I don't mean to say that I'm stereotypical in that regard either, because my heart goes out to women who've lost their libido or who have pain during sex or all those things, because I never had any of them. I don't know why. I have no idea. But fight for that too. That's part of the whole package is, don't just cruise into old age and say, well, I had my glory days. And now all I get to do is swing on the porch. I mean, don't go there.
Swing on the porch. Oh man. Well, it's even I'm 40 and it's still kind of like, it's like, okay, I'm getting there. And then what's so great, you're one woman and I have two clients that are 80 something, 78, have boyfriends and like dating and having sex. And I'm just like, wow, like it really inspired me because whenever I have these moments of like, oh, I'm 40 and I'm single, and I'm like, hey, these are older women that are finding love and having passionate sex. So it's not over. It's definitely not over.
It's funny you saying that though, because I remember when I got divorced, a long time ago from another husband, I think I was 37, maybe. I don't remember. I was young and I thought it was over then. Momentarily, of course,
Yeah.
momentarily, but it can happen to you at any age. That feeling of despair and wondering if you'll ever be able to close the gap between where you are and your vision of a passionate life.
Yes. And a passionate life doesn't always necessarily include a partner because you
No,
can have a passionate, joyful life. And then if a partner comes, wonderful, but it's not necessarily the goal.
it's a very good point, Carine. And something that's tricky though, at least for me, was that I thought I was having a passionate life, even though my husband were not sexual anymore. We were just like roommates, but I still had a passionate life. I had a passionate sex life with myself, and I had a passionate life with my friends and family, and I love my work. And so it's interesting though, because the temptation for me was to say, I'm just not meant to have that peace this lifetime. But I have a passionate life. And so sometimes our desire to be grateful for what we have can get in the way of us going for the full fulfillment. And sometimes that's very tricky.
It is. Yeah, because you want to be comfortable, you want to be surrendered and excited about what you have. But then if you're wishing for something else, that disappointment could then take you down the path of negativity and pity and feeling sorry for yourself
Well, that, or you can pretend you're not disappointed.
or that.
And you can settle because you're pretending that you're not disappointed. That's what I was doing until my sister, who's a year younger than I am, found the love of her life on the internet. And I said, damn, I want that. I want that. And so it's like, let yourself be open. Maybe you are supposed to be alone, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. When I have moments where I'm alone, like right today, I spent the night at my own house for a change. And I was meditating outside and looking at the view and thinking, I am completely whole and content with myself.
Right. It's important. It's really important because then it allows you to meet the partner that you want to meet because you're coming from a place of wholeness and completion within yourself, and you're not seeking for anyone else to come and fill you up.
Right. But when he comes,
or she,
absolutely, or they, or they. Yeah. It is a whole different feeling.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
And you will have it. You're too lovely for the universe to be not bringing you somebody to experience some more lessons with. I mean, that's really all it is.
It is true. Thank you. Yeah, it's true.
Just different lessons.
True. It is true. It becomes a mirror. And I think that's a lot of the times why people steer away from relationships also, because they know that a relationship opens up that Pandora box where you start to see things inside yourself that come up for healing that can be very challenging. It really starts to, it can be painful.
It can be. It absolutely is. Every time it happens to me, every time I get out of a relationship, I'm alone for a while, and then I get into another one, I think, damn, I thought I was more well. I thought I was more well than this, but just another layer of stuff comes up. And, that's what I'm experiencing now at almost 72. It's like, oh my God, I'm still insecure. I'm still reactive. I'm still anxious. And that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. I want to learn. And if I'm going to learn, I have to have stuff to learn.
Yeah, it's never ending. It's putting yourself in that place of surrender and openness. And yeah, I mean, love does that. I mean, it's healing. It's so healing. And in that healing process, you're opening up parts of you that can be painful, that need love to come in and rinse it away, wash it away,
You
So
know,
it's a beautiful process.
I was listening to a podcast this morning. Oprah, I think it was, interviewing Harville Hendrix, who's a famous imago therapist, who was talking about the people that we choose, the people we have chemistry with, always remind us of one of our childhood caregivers. And
Really?
yeah, and that we're always, I mean, my boyfriend right now totally reminds me of my dad. Not in every way at all, but in certain ways, he totally reminds me of my dad. And that we do that the underlying impetus is that we need to replicate those early childhood traumas in some way in order to heal them. Not because we want to have the pain repeat, but we want
Right.
to have the healing of it. And I'm really experiencing that, what you're saying, how
Mhm.
healing love is. That's the ultimate, is if you find somebody that you have chemistry with who reminds you in some way of your childhood caregiver, and they love you and comfort you and are partnering with you in the process of learning and accountability and all of that, then you've got it all, because you are actually healing. And that's what I'm feeling for the first time in my life. It's amazing feeling, because before I would find the person I was attracted to and they would be my depressed mother, and then I would spend 10 years trying to help them not be depressed, and they would never get out of being depressed, and then I would say, oh damn, I have to let them go. And you know
That's a very good point, because there's two different there's two different ways of that, because I had an ex that had elements of my father, but it wasn't the good qualities. It was
right.
the qualities of putting me down, making me feel small. And I was like, oh wait, this is how my dad used to make me feel. And so it was great to heal that part of myself, but at the same time, it's with somebody that wasn't necessarily on his journey of working out his things. So for me, partnerships are really about both parties doing that personal development. We're triggering each other, but these are opportunities for growth, and both of us have that agreement. Otherwise, one
Absolutely.
person has the agreement to change, and the other person's just like poking and poking and not going anywhere.
Absolutely. What you get from that then is to say, no.
Right. No.
No,
But a
no.
lot of us take that, it took me a year and a half, but it takes other people
That's
longer.
fast, honey. That's very fast. It's taken me a decade, 15 years in the last one.
Well, I have a lot of friends and support and people to help shine light in my stuff, to be like, hey, this isn't the right direction you're going in.
Well, so do I, but sometimes we're slower to learn than others. And I'm saying that not to defend myself, but
Right.
to tell people, I don't care if it's taken you 40 years, and you still have a lot of support and you've been to therapy 20 times, maybe now is the time. And, you might find another guy, Carine, who tends to be critical, but he's also introspective. And,
Right.
you say, hey, that sounded like you were putting me down. Are you feeling insecure? Because that's what it feels like, is that you're trying to keep me in my place because you feel insecure. You know what I'm saying? And he said,
Right.
oh yeah, I am doing that. So it's not like you have to find somebody who doesn't ever have that sharp tongue
Right.
that might want to put you down, because it's just a habit.
It's a habit, but like you said, I could say that he are you feeling insecure? And then he could be like, actually, I am. And then we can have a conversation about it. And
Exactly.
then it could be a loving growth opportunity, as opposed to him being defensive and being like, no, I'm not insecure. Well, you're insecure.
Exactly. But exactly. Exactly.
Madness.
But you might be attracted to guys with that sharp tongue, is all I'm saying. My boyfriend has that,
Mm-hmm.
like my father. But
Mm-hmm.
when I point that out, he says, oh, wow, babe, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxious, or I don't want to show you how much I need you, or, something
Right.
incredibly vulnerable that makes me love him even more after he said some stupid comment.
I know we're works in progress.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the part of the relationships that's always so challenging, because you're like having, at least for me, like I'm giving so much to clients and people, and I love people and I'm so much fun. And then you have a boyfriend that requires so much that I was like, I need a man that's more emotionally mature. He doesn't have to be perfect, but emotional maturity is number one, because it's like we need to have emotional, intelligent conversations. Otherwise, it's never going to go anywhere.
Amen. That's all I have to say to that.
Like, I can't.
Amen. And not just emotional maturity, but spiritual
Right.
curiosity,
Right.
because spiritual curiosity is what gives us the foundation to live by. If someone isn't spiritually curious about, overcoming the domination of the ego or whatever, they can be emotionally mature, but they're not guided. I don't know exactly if I'm making sense,
No,
but
you are. They're not guided by their heart. They're guided by their mind. And
right.
so it also stunts the growth. But I mean, yeah, not being in that heart, not having that faith, not having that extra miraculous energy, magical energy around you that propels you forward is but it's different. It's interesting because that, to me, that's such a given, because we live and breathe. I live and breathe that. So I feel
I
like
know.
vibrationally, I'm just like, how would you come if you're not even on my level? But my ex was. So you're right. You gotta say it. He was not spiritually inclined, and that definitely was a big problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And trust me, when you sit down to breakfast and your partner says, I was listening to a podcast of Deepak Chopra about this, and I want to play it for you right now because I think it'll support us. It's like, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven.
It's so sweet.
Because you're not just the one holding that energy.
Right.
You found a partner who is holding that energy for you. And I think one of the temptations for people like you and me is that we become the container for that. We become the spiritual leader in relationships, instead of waiting to find a partner who is his own spiritual leader. And then you can, support one another truly as equals.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I feel like I have to be the leader. Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting and waiting.
Well, that's how I always felt. That is absolutely how I always felt. But my guy now is, I can rely on him. That idea. Everybody says, I want to marry a guy that I'm not only their lover, but they're my best friend. Right. I never had that. I thought, best friend? Are you kidding me? My girlfriends are my best friends. My daughter, my sister, my spiritual community, they're my best friends, not my guy. I can't rely on him for spiritual wisdom and emotional maturity. I can rely on him to, want me and to make me feel like a woman, to hold my hand, to do things with. But now I know what it means to have a guy that is my best friend. It's like I can talk to him about anything, and he stops and he centers himself spiritually, and he uses spiritual principles to support me back. And it's like that. Don't settle for less than that. Carine.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. And I'm so happy for you. Yeah. I realized with my last relationship, it was exactly what you're saying. It was not that. And it was so challenging because I found that I don't really have anything else to talk about. Like, that's really all I talk about. I talk about spiritual stuff. I talk about health, and, of course, pop culture and like fun little things, but really, that's really all I talk about. And so we would have conversations and he would say, I feel like we never talk. And I'm like, because we don't have anything in common, really. Like, when it came down to it, I had to think about it. I was like, because I feel like I could talk about anything. I'm somebody that can.
Yeah.
I could chit chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But when it comes to depth.
The depth, right. If it's not talking about heart, vulnerability, spiritual stuff, talking about the universe and multidimensional stuff. Like that's the stuff I can talk about. That's what I really enjoy talking about.
Well, and how are you feeling right now, honey? How was our day between us? Did I do something that triggered you? It's like,
Right. Right.
real stuff.
That's the conversation I'm talking about. Not like, so what'd you do at work? I don't care. like I didn't really care like about those conversations. Like people would ask, he would ask me, well, how was your day? Good. That's, I want to know, like, it's more the question, the answer for me, or the question for me is more like, so how were your clients? Did anything come up for you? How'd you feel? Like, those are the kinds of conversations I would have, but it would be hard to talk about something like that with somebody that's not even open to those types of conversations.
Right. And it's interesting though, because you would be interested in what he did at work today if he came home and said, I really got triggered at work today by one of my employees who came in kvetching about X, Y, and Z, and I found myself wanting to strangle him instead of support him. Then you would have said, tell me more.
Exactly.
I'm fascinated.
Right. And that's what I was trying to like tell him. I was like, I want to hear about like how you felt, like what happened to you, what did your spirit go through? Not I had to send out 4 emails, I had a PowerPoint, and like that benign information, like that's not interesting. And
boring.
So, it's so boring. Like, why would I ask you about that? And so that was like the miscommunication. And I think for me, what was interesting, because I'd never had a partnership like that where people asked me questions about benign questions anyway. And I was like, oh, so this is what adults do in relationships. They actually talk about their day, but I always want to talk about deep stuff. And so that was like a realization for myself, like what kind of conversations do I actually enjoy having? And then I'm spoiled because all my friends are deep, amazing women and men. We have deep conversations all the time. So you think it's normal. And then you meet other people and you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, but what I'm learning right now is that if you get filled up with the deepness, with the depth and the intimacy, then you have a wonderful time cooking together and talking about, how to chop eggplant.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't always have to be that, but if you don't get that, then everything else is boring.
Right.
But if you do get that, and like with your friends, if you're deep friends, if you lived with them, you wouldn't always be talking about that. You'd be talking about, let's go for a run. Isn't this an incredible hike?
Right.
Do you like that painting over here? What do you want for supper?
Right. But it's balanced. It's balanced where you're not like craving for a certain level of intimacy that's just
that you never get. Yeah. Then you don't want to hear anything else. Just give me that thing that's missing. And that's the truth, isn't it? Is that we end up focusing on what we're missing.
Right. Right. Exactly. And then the bickering starts and the resentment, and then just the overall, like, I just don't want to deal with you. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that's exactly what it was. And I wasn't even able to articulate. I tried to, and I was just like, what is wrong here? It's like a shoe that fits, but not quite right. And it's uncomfortable and you don't know what to do about it.
Well, and I think it's important for the listeners and viewers to think about that, because if you just think every moment is going to be a deep, challenging spiritual dilemma, then that's boring too in the end.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. If you lived that 24/7 and you never got out and went for a jog, and you know what I'm saying?
Right. You'd be like exhausted from it.
Exactly. So, and just because somebody likes to go running or be in nature or cook or whatever, don't eliminate them offhand. Just make sure they've got the other.
Yeah. It's all about finding the right
integration
and balance for what you want and how you are. And I think the most important thing I'm realizing is understanding who I am, because the more I understand who I am and how I operate and what triggers me, what I like, all my vulnerabilities, it makes it a lot easier to manage somebody else. Because then when I'm with somebody else, I know where I'm at and what I'm looking for and how I can communicate from a loving space. And until like a lot of the times in that relationship, I didn't know what I wanted. I was like, oh, this sounds good. Sure. And then I'm like, oh, I actually don't like that. Why did I think I liked that? That's just a story I told myself that I thought I liked that, but I actually don't. So it was a very, very big learning lesson.
And, listening to you talking, I can't help but think again of how judgmental we are about ourselves and our process. I should have known better. I should have learned faster. I should have been kinder to him. It wasn't his fault he was that way, on and on and on and on. And I think that that's another real point of awareness to emphasize is to, don't be hard on yourself. Don't shame yourself about the mistakes that you've made and the, quote unquote failed relationships you've had. Another podcast I was listening to, I'm a nut about podcasts now because I jog every morning for an hour and I listen and, I learn so much. And somebody was talking about how in order to focus on the positive, we have to tell ourselves 3 to 5 times more positive self messages
Yes.
than negative,
Right.
because we tend to listen to the negative and give it so much more weight.
Right.
And I loved that ratio.
Absolutely.
I loved knowing that ratio.
Absolutely. And I 100% believe in that. And for me, when I look at past relationships, specifically this one, I look at all the negative aspects, but also the positive growth points from all of those negative places. Because it was like, okay, this negative thing happened. It was painful, but look at everything I've learned about myself that I wouldn't have learned had I not been in that situation. So the whole relationship was a failure, quote unquote. But for me, it felt like a success because I feel like I felt like it was a year and a half, but it literally felt like 5-year relationship. And I cleared so much karma and energy and all this stuff that I wouldn't have done in such a short amount of time. So it was kind of like awesome because I was kind of like, at least this wasn't like a long relationship that took me so long to get over. It was pretty short and compact and very intense, but it was like so many, it literally, I felt like I was living 5 lifetimes in one.
And again, there that compensation self message is, the gratitude for everything I learned. Look at what I learned. Look at how I grew. Look at the challenges I met. Look at what I'm taking away. And look at the mistakes that I didn't make this time around. That's another positive. The mistakes I didn't make this time.
Right.
And that is so important in letting go of where you are now and moving on is going over rigorously, meticulously going over what you're grateful for.
Right.
As you let go of it, so that you don't end up focusing on the negative, because then of course you're dragging that boulder around with you instead of that feeling of liberation and gratitude and openness of, I'm ready for the next challenge and I got this and this and this and this out of that. It was such a success.
Right. And for me, it's like, okay, like God sent me this one and now I'm ready for the next one. So I mean, every relationship I feel like has gotten better and better and better. So I'm kind of looking forward to the next one. I'm like, okay, the next one's going to be even better. It's going to be a better relationship, a more of a fit for me. And letting go of so much of the traditional programming that I've been placed in. Like I have to have this type of relationship. He has to do this and and being open to like just finding someone that matches who I am has been exciting. So now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the next thing.
For the next chapter.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to happen because I'm not online, but I'm hoping that I meet him somewhere, farmer's market, Whole Foods or something.
And that's possible.
It's
possible, but I personally believe in putting it out there in a more obvious way.
I did the online dating thing for a little bit, and I don't know. I feel like it's such an energy. Everything for me is all energy. Like when my energy is in alignment and I do something, it's totally successful. If I'm not totally energetically aligned with it, it's a failure. It doesn't work, or it doesn't move. I should say it doesn't move. So every time I've done online dating and I've been in like kind of like, nothing happens. So I really have to be in a space to do it and feel positive about it.
Yeah, you have to shift your intentions, my darling.
Yeah, because online, I'm like, it's just,
You know what I say to my clients and
Yeah.
to myself when I went online this time? I said, what I'm intending is to practice being authentic.
Oh, that's a good one.
Period. Period. I'm not looking for love. I'm not looking for the next guy. I am taking on my next challenge in practicing being authentic in potential romantic relationships.
Oh, I like that.
And it's you can't go wrong then, because
Mhm.
all you have to do is stay true to your intention. And I had fun even on really unfun dates because, this one guy was really brilliant, a retired lawyer and screenwriter and, handsome. But he was such a dud in person. He like gave you nothing.
Oh.
And I was practicing being authentic. And I said, I can't tell anything about how you feel about me. You're giving me nothing.
You said that?
Oh, yeah. I
Oh.
said that. And I said, I don't know if you think I'm nice or an asshole. I have no idea. And he said, I'm quite reserved. And I said, well, that's a different story. That's a different story, but you're giving me nothing to go by. And so that's what I feel is nothing. And then another guy, was just another retired lawyer. Oh my God, talk, 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 talk. And he said he missed being a trial lawyer. And I said, that's because
Really?
you're a performer. And he said, yeah, I know. And I said, and you're doing it right now. You know, you're totally performing, talking constantly. And so I was practicing being authentic, and it was so great for me.
Sounds fun.
It is fun. It really is fun, because then you get to have fun, even if they're a dud.
Yeah, I've done similar things. Like I went on a speed dating event once in LA, and my intention was like, I'm gonna be a healer. Like no matter what man comes in front of me, I'm just gonna send him love and just, be like in a healer mode. And it was really nice. I mean, the guys were not anything I would ever want to date, but it was a different attitude, because I was just giving love and listening to them. And, it was just a different vibe, and I really appreciated it, as opposed to me trying to like figure out, like, is this going to work?
Yeah. Can I give you some feedback though?
It was just a one-time thing. I only did it once.
Can I still give you some
Sure,
feedback?
tell me.
Is you were hiding.
Yeah, kind of. I was definitely hiding.
Yeah, you're hiding in a role. And if you practice dating, hiding in the role of healer, then when you meet the guy, you're still going to be in the role of healer.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so don't practice that anymore. You've already got that one down, baby.
Yeah, it was only once.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing you. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying the intention of being authentic.
I like the authentic, because speed dating for me was very like, this is not comfortable, so I had to like think of a way to like be comfortable.
I get it. I totally
but like
get it. But
I historically am just not a big dater, and I think I got spoiled because I grew up in New York, and you don't really have to date in New York because guys just snatch you up in the street. You just go somewhere and somebody finds you. And that was my whole existence until I moved to California. And since I moved to California, it's like you have to make so much effort to go out and meet people. And
well, right. And I want to add another thing too. Don't wait for yourself to be comfortable. That is
uncomfortable.
Oh no, absolutely. I was uncomfortable every time I said something authentic. I was uncomfortable before I said it. But I, that's that's the juice.
Okay.
Is to make yourself uncomfortable. If you want to be comfortable before you do something, I don't know, I mean, what would you say to your clients? You wouldn't tell your clients, don't do anything uncomfortable.
No, I wouldn't say don't do anything uncomfortable, but I would say don't put yourself in a situation that doesn't make you feel safe.
Well, of course.
Make sure you feel safe and feel a little bit uncomfortable to push yourself.
Of course. Yeah. But my ex had a therapist who told him, if it's uncomfortable, don't do it.
Really? That's like
He was
working
he
out.
was
Like,
a
why would you?
horrible he was a horrible therapist,
That's like working out.
absolutely horrible therapist. So, yeah, you've got to be willing to be uncomfortable. You've got to be willing to jump off the cliff and
Yeah.
trust yourself that whatever happens, you're gonna make, orange juice out of that smashed orange.
Oh, I absolutely will. I feel like I can always do that part. It's just the first part that's just like the actual going out there, dating. I feel like once the initial part is over, then I'm like, okay, this is cool. But it's just that
That's,
initial part.
honey, that's what I'm talking about,
I
though.
hate that
It
part.
is the initial
I
part.
hate the initial part.
The initial part is the jumping off the cliff
Oh,
for
it's so
you.
terrible. It's like the texting
But
and
listen to
I
you.
hate
Listen
it.
to you.
I hate it.
You're
I hate it. I really do. I really
okay.
dislike it.
Okay. But, just say, I'm going to practice being authentic.
I'm gonna practice being authentic and I'm gonna circle back to you and tell you how it went.
Okay. And call me for support.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll figure out what you weren't authentic about. And that's why you're feeling miserable. Because if you are authentic every time you connect to somebody, you're going to feel good about it.
I love how this podcast has become about my dating life.
It's become a therapy set, a coaching session, an intimacy.
How could Carine start dating again? But it has been the topic of the week, so I guess it's appropriate.
Well, and you know what, honey, you're doing it right now. You're practicing being authentic in front of all these people.
And I'm sure there are millions of listeners out there that can relate.
Absolutely. Almost everybody who goes on to a dating site has an agenda that doesn't get met, and then they hate it. And then they either cover that up and become more and more desperate, or they quit.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I just have to get past my romantic notions of me just walking in the street and this beautiful man says, "Hey, you're so gorgeous." And then he ends up being the perfect guy. And then I go off in the sunset.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that one, honey.
I know.
I don't know what to say even about that. It's so outrageous.
I know, it's crazy. It's totally crazy. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I think I read too many romance novels.
I guess, but it's all over the movies, TV, social media, is just, put that energy out and the guy will come, and, it's like,
yeah. It's not realistic, and it goes back to what we were talking about originally. Like certain people that may work for, but for people like me, if I want something in life, I have to kind of go for it and make it happen, and that's true for every aspect of my life. So,
well, you have to do your part,
right?
The universe will do its part, but you can't just lie back and wait for
exactly
things to come to you because you're sending out a vibe.
I know. And I know that I'm joking, but I mean, partially feels like I know that's not the reality, but
well, I get it though. I was pretty also when I was a young woman, and men would just come to me, but then I got what I got.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Then you get what you get. And
exactly.
Then you're kind of stuck with this like person that you would have never chosen.
Exactly, because you're beautiful and you walk down the street and guys want you. So, you can go ahead with that, or
it doesn't work. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't work for what you want, because you have a very high standard, of something specific you're looking for that is based on authenticity on both sides. So going into it with the intention to practice authenticity, then you can't lose.
Right.
Then you can't even be disappointed.
No, because you're just being yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And then you get to see who they are, and then you get to focus a lot more on evaluating them than on waiting for them to want you.
Yeah. And it's taking, and it's also, honestly, it's the real part of it is like taking full responsibility for who you are and manifesting what you want in your life. Ultimately, it comes down to that. Right. And
well said, Carine.
And I know that. So part of me is just like, I'm just not ready to take full responsibility until I'm ready. And I am ready. I am ready to do it. It's just part of me is just hesitating, and I just give excuses. But I'll get there very shortly.
No comment.
Focusing on work.
Uh,
Okay, so let's get to the infinite love questions. How do you use love in your work?
that's a really good question. Something that I've always said to clients is if you felt loved as a child, even if you were molested, beaten, criticized, abandoned, whatever, if somebody loved you, then you have a foundation for self-love. And if you have a foundation for self-love, you have a foundation for growth and transformation and expansion. And so the establishment of an energy of love between me and my clients is incredibly important, because if they don't feel like I love them, then they don't feel safe.
Mhm.
And we can't go to the depths of pain that are necessary to walk through to the healing unless they know I love them and I'm right beside them.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's everything. That's everything. And I feel like that's a true mark of a healer as opposed to a clinician, right? Somebody that's actually helping you heal with love. So that's beautiful. How is your work used to serve humanity?
It's all about consciousness. I had a mentor for 35 years, Beth Green is her name, brilliant radical thinker. And she made this comment that there are not a million human problems. We think of it as, okay, social justice is a problem,
Yeah.
racial inequity is a problem, transgender rights is a problem, climate change is a problem, but it's not true. There is really only one human problem, and that is human consciousness. And if we applied real consciousness, awareness of the oneness of humanity, and that it has to be for the highest good of all for it to work, then we could resolve every other problem. And so that's how my work is of service to humanity, is that it's all based on supporting people's consciousness so that they then can apply that consciousness to their love relationships, their work relationships, their relationships to the climate, etc.
Beautiful. What what does it mean to you to be a positive force of goodness in the world?
It means that I am accountable to keep learning and growing so that I can be a role model for other people of authenticity, number one. And that is very important to me, that I show my vulnerabilities, I show my mistakes. I am you, whoever you is, whoever you are. I am you. I don't care if you're young, old, black, white, male, female. We are all one. And, I've got all the same crap going on that you've got going on. And I'm committed and responsible for myself to do something about it when I see it. And so, that's my commitment, is to be a role model of continuing courage and continuing passion so that, I can inspire other people, not out of being perfect, but out of showing them, like I said before, it's like you're never too old.
Yeah, that's great. And that's beautiful. And it's true. It's like that we're all connected. Like everything that you go through, I go through. And, just because we're doing this work doesn't mean that we're any better than anyone else. It's just we've gotten a few feet ahead and we can bring you along. And the more that we grow, the more that we can bring people along. And it's all about the journey. And it's not about perfection, because none of us are perfect. And it's true, like sharing our difficulties with people can see, oh yeah, I'm going through that too. And yeah, if she made it, I can do it too. And I feel like that's so inspiring. And I feel like I need that all the time, is to see people going through stuff and
I
work
completely
themselves out.
agree, especially in our current climate of social media falsehood. The falsehood of, this is what my body looks like. Are you kidding? That is Photoshop. Or even if it isn't, it's like, why do we admire this instead of, the reality of who human beings are? I mean, again, that goes against consciousness. it makes us feel like we're not good enough unless we're this way. And so people being transparent, I can't remember the woman's name, but there's a woman on Instagram who takes all these luscious, perfect bodies and little snippets, and she's heavier, and she dresses up just like them and does the movements just like they're doing as a parody. It is hysterical. I love her because she's making fun of that whole way of viewing ourselves that we need to get over.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you love most about your life?
Everything. I mean, I don't know what to say other than I love the process of evolution. I love waking up every day. And when I say that, it's like I'm anxious and I get insecure and all the stuff that everybody else has. I struggle with that every single day. My loose skin from being old and losing weight. It's like I've got all that. And I give myself at least 5 messages on the positive side. I love evolution. I love not knowing what's happening. I love the courage that I have to dive into whatever is in front of me. I love exercising. I love my family. I love my boyfriend. I love sex. I love, I love nature. I love you. My ex-husband used to say, "You love everything." And he would say that sort of like a criticism, but it's because I do. I energize the energy of love. I want to love my life. I want, when I die, and I hope I don't die for a long time because I'm not done, if you can hear me, universe. But it's like I want to love as much as I possibly can about every single day. And that's my favorite thing about myself and my life, is that I focus on that.
That's amazing. And then my last question is, where have you felt love created a miracle in your life?
Well, right now, I mean, I could really cry about it. For the last, I don't know how long, I always thought, God, I'm so grateful for my life. I've had such incredible blessings. And I'm sad that I'm never going to find a real partner, but not everybody's meant to. And I guess I'm not. And that's okay. I wasn't complaining. I was really focusing again on loving my life and on loving being grateful. But God brought me a partner, and it's a miracle. And I tell him, and he tells me every day, what a miracle that God brought us together at 71 and 72 to, find the love of our lives, to find someone that really can heal that deep sense of longing to connect and longing to be understood, longing to be the person you always wanted to be in a relationship. Because it's not just about what you receive, it's about seeing myself being the generous lover and the generous woman and the generous partner that I always wanted to be with a man, but I never could be because I was never met and I never felt safe. And so, the miracle of never giving up, I guess that's what I would say, the miracle of always having hope that, if I just keep working on myself and being grateful, that God will bring me things I don't expect. And I didn't expect this.
That's amazing. I'm just taking that in. I was just like, yes, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Loving love and working on yourself to attract the person that you're meant to be with. And as well as doing online dating and at the same time. So thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for your vulnerability and your heart and your love and your energy. I love you so much. I'm so glad we got to connect.
Me too,
on a new friend.
For life.
Yeah.
I absolutely want to be your friend for life. And it's another miracle that, I asked Susan Bratton who would be good on my next summit, and she said, the first person she said, Carine Camara. And it's like, thank you, Susan. I told her, I wrote to her and thanked her and said how much I love you and how we're going to be friends forever. And, that's another miracle. It's like, who would have thought, how would we have ever met?
Right?
Young, beautiful, successful Black woman, old white woman in a different part of the, you know what I'm saying? It's like, how would we have met? But it's like, we just knew instantly we are related.
Right. We're from the same soul pod.
Exactly. We're from the same soul pod. So I feel the same way about you. And I wish for everyone listening that you look for your soul pod. Be aware of the fact that there is a soul pod for you. I don't care what it looks like, and I don't care who it is. Keep your heart open. There is a soul pod for you.
Totally. Well, I am sending you so much love. Thank you so much. How can people find you? If people want to work with you, tell us how people can get in contact with you.
Well, the easiest way is my website, which is helenhillix.com. And Hillix is Hillix. I'm on Facebook under Helen Hillix, Instagram under Helen Hillix. You can put in Sacred Sexuality Summits. You'll probably find me also. But the easiest way is just my website.
Cool.
And I'd love to hear from you. And I also have a podcast called From My Heart to Yours, which I'm not really doing actively right now. And I have a YouTube channel, Helen Hillix. Everything's under Helen Hillix.
Okay. So, and I'll put all that information in the show notes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me, Carine. It's been such a pleasure having this conversation.
Thank you so much for all the dating advice. Let's see how it goes.
I can't wait to hear.
All right, I'm sending you so much love. Bye.
Same to you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and tune in on Tuesdays for new episodes. For more information about me, please follow me on Instagram at Carine J. Camara and my website, CarineCamara.com. Sending you lots of infinite love.